Okay, Lorraine, we're live.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Okay, so welcome to the Sixth Form Centre Year 13 live progression event. If you just look at the slides. Okay, so first of all, every student in Year 13 needs to ensure they've completed the following tasks. So all details about these tasks were emailed to Year 13 students last week. So the first thing is the Keeping Safe module on Moodle. 3 tasks via my progress. So about me, the skills self-assessment and the checklist. That all students must have completed the information for my tutor reference. And if applying to UCAS, have completed a full draft of the personal statement. So that's 4,000 characters, remember. And also be nearly finished doing UCAS and or apprenticeship research. I just wanted to remind all students about Moodle. So this is the key place where you can access information. So if you just go to Moodle and then you select A-level tutorial, this will come up. So we've got things like key information and dates. And I'd also like to draw your attention to the third tile, which is Year 13 live events, which is today. So all the key forms, information and information that you've been emailed and the PowerPoint from today, etc., is all in there. So it's everything you need. Okay, so just make sure you're regularly using Moodle. Just some more detail. Yeah, so on the key information and dates, we've got the year plan, so you know when half-term Christmas is and where college have got staff inset days, so there aren't any lessons. There's also a really useful frequently asked question sheet. So that's giving you information about who you go for help with logging on, if you've got additional learning needs, if you want a careers appointment, etc. And also things about your timetable. So that's a good place to kind of find information. As I said, we've got the Year 13 live event tile, which includes all the information covered today. Then we've got a tile for the student union with information, student union handbook and the dates of meetings, etc. And just to remind you all, because I know you haven't had a group tutorial, elections will be held in group tutorials next week. So you need to think about whether you want to stand as the student union rep for your tutor group. So it doesn't really matter whether you were a rep at year 12 or not. You can put yourself forward as a rep this year. The training will be on Tuesday, the 29th of September, and then the meetings start the 6th of October. So they're about every month. So there's 8 meetings across the year in total. And again, all the dates for those meetings are on Moodle. I've also put in the live event file and the enrichment folder details of the Freshers Online Fair. So you will have been emailed this. So that lasts from the 14th of September to the 25th. So there are loads of exciting events there that you can get involved in. They're all online. I've also put the new Sixth Form Centre enrichment booklet in there so you can see what's happening at the Sixth Form Centre. And just to say, enrichment at the Sixth Form Centre will start the 28th of September, so after the Freshers Online Fair has started. Okay. I just wanted to advertise Get Ahead News here. So last year you were emailed this. At the moment, we've just got the link to the first one on here for you to access. So just to say, it's really important that you look at it. So it comes out fortnightly. So there's lots of links to great enrichment opportunities, UCAS information, information about internships and virtual open days. So it's something you really need to keep your eye on because you will need to make yourself stand out from the crowd, either applying to UCAS and also obviously in the future with getting a job. So it's really important you look at that. Also, the careers team have now got a YouTube channel. This has enabled them to put more videos, make more videos available to students because they're quite large files. So there's lots of interviews on there with people about how they got into their career and advice and tips for you. So make sure you take a look at that. Again, I did send this in an email to all students, but just to remind you, there are key events for parents and carers coming up. So the UCAS information evening is tomorrow, 6 o'clock to 7:30. We've also got an online event for students applying for Art Foundation and creative degrees. So that's next week. And then there's also an event for students applying for an apprenticeship. And I know a lot of you might be applying for an apprenticeship and UCAS, and that's fine. So obviously parents can attend both of those. Just to update you on tutor group information. So tutor groups are still being added to people's timetables, but if you check EBS on Thursday, the 17th of September, your timetable should be completely accurate then, and you should have your tutor and tutor group details. And group tutorials will start from Monday, the 21st of September. Okay, thank you. So I'll hand over to Ben now.
Okay, thanks, Lorraine. I'm not Ben, obviously, I'm Jo, but I will hand over to Ben in a minute. So just to say that the events that Lorraine mentioned for the parents and carers, obviously being online is a massive advantage. So if you wanted to come along to those virtually, then obviously you're more than welcome to do that. And similarly, if you're thinking about an apprenticeship as well as UCAS, there is another tutorial going on at the same time as this. They are both recorded. So if you wanted to look at both options and you wanted to have a look at the apprenticeship tutorial, that is going to be recorded, so you can watch that. There is the Q&A function as usual on this presentation. What we would ask you to do is, if you have got a question, if you could include your student ID number. Otherwise we don't have any idea who's asking the question and we can't get back to you, but we will try and pick up as many questions as we can. So without further ado, we've got Ben Orsesi, who's going to talk to you about the UCAS process. So I will just ask Ben to share his desktop. Okay, Ben, your slides are there.
Okay. Okay, hi there everyone, my name is Ben. I'm one of the HE and Careers Advisors here at college. Some of you may have met me probably in January and February when we had some careers talks before lockdown. You may see me as coming into the Career Centre here. It's a team of 4 of us that work here, and I've been asked to deliver a presentation for you today on this kind of upcoming area of UCAS and how it works here and how we support you in the college. So let me run through what I'm going to cover today. Some of you may have registered already, but I'm just going to give you a very quick practical demonstration of how you do that. I'm going to show you some important documentation you need for that. I'm going to explain to you about how our Candy UCAS process works, and this is can often be some of the problems that come up with students in terms of they're not aware of how it works. So it may seem quite complicated, but I'll hopefully explain it today and it will be clear for you. I'm going to talk about some of the common mistakes students have done historically in terms of filling out their forms, and this will save everyone time further down the line. I'm going to talk to you about your university choices. Some of these slides from the choices part I included on our closer look talk that some of you may have attended, but I'm going to give you some real advice around having a good range and balance of choices. I'm going to give you some top tips for the personal statement. Lorraine mentioned already about the information from my tutor reference, so I'll just talk to you about how important that is. Signpost the parents' evening, which is taking place tomorrow around UCAS, and our own internal UCAS Candy deadlines and why they're important. Okay. So now, just to say, we have been obviously still dealing with UCAS forms actually since March, since many of us have been working from home. So we've had a bit of experience, I suppose, of dealing with students remotely, students doing late applications from last year's Year 13 group. So we're hopefully going to be really well versed in supporting you this term, and obviously maybe a mixture of blended learning. But yeah, don't be alarmed by, I suppose, not having the support face to face from us here. We can support you in exactly the same way. As I think I was saying before, we've all been through the experience of dealing with students from late applications at home from March. So we've sort of learned some things from that, and we'll be able to help you guys even more this process coming through. So some of you may have seen this handout here already. Okay, this will really help you in terms of the UCAS application. You will find this in the Moodle section under student support, under sixth form, and under the box HE and UCAS box. You must use this form to help you with the key parts of the applications. I'll come in a minute in terms of the common mistakes, but please make sure you register with the buzzword, which is Angel21. That links your application to our form, to our UCAS Candy files here. And what I would say is, please, can you wait until Friday to register on UCAS, because you can choose your tutor from there. And if you do that before Friday, it'll be a big admin job for us to move students around. So if you're an early applicant for courses like Oxford, Cambridge or medicine, you'd go into those groups. But please wait to start your form until sort of late Thursday, but Friday morning probably. And on this form here, on the apply form here, have this printed off or have it to hand, or however you like to use documentation, and it gives you the key information of parts to include on the form. There's lots of information on the UCAS form to follow, but these are the key parts you need to make sure you get right. Now don't worry if you don't get it right the first time. When we come to the final checking of your UCAS form, we can go through this and change these. So it's not set in stone what you write, but the less mistakes you make, the less time it will take us to go over through your form. Okay. So, as I said, from sort of Thursday, Friday morning, you go through onto the UCAS site here, and that's a live link there to find. I think it's on the right hand side. You'll find an apply button. Okay, and I've just got a few screenshots here to show you in terms of key bits that you'll see when you start working on the UCAS form here. Okay, so when you register or start to register, you'll go to the 2021 icon there at the bottom, which is called apply. The track icon is really important as well, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But in terms of registering, you go to that one on the bottom left for apply. And then once you get past that screen, you'll have to register. Okay, so you go to the bottom part there to register. And actually, once you've registered, and every time you go into the UCAS form, whether this is on your phone or a PC, you'll have a username and password. The username and password is usually your first letter of your first name, then a surname, then a number, and a password which you choose, which I think has to have a capital, a lowercase, numbers and symbols. So please make sure you make a note of that, because you'll be using that a lot. Okay. And then once you get into the UCAS form, you'll see this is how it kind of looks really. Now I would say the UCAS form is a really old-fashioned kind of form. Actually, it's not too different to how it has been for many years. They were going to change it this academic year, but with everything going on with all the COVID stuff, they decided to keep it the same. Now what it does mean is that you can stop and start and finish whenever you like. Okay, and the toolbar on the left-hand side kind of tells you where you're at with things and stuff really. And this is an example. This is a dummy copy that I have of someone here called David. And he's nearly finished his form, so it's nearly ready to be approved by an advisor. So, but you would kind of work on those bits as you go along, and I'm going to tell you some of the bits which are a bit more problematic to fill out, or might need more similar sort of questions we often get from students. Okay, now once you come to finish your form and you click pay send, you'll have to tick these boxes here. Can I advise you, really would help us a lot if you do tick all the boxes. It just means that we see information of what's happening in terms of your application, in terms of your choices, and it just enables us to give you a lot more help and support really, and everything there is protected. Okay. So that's some of the things you'll see, but as I said, I'm sure you'll all kind of work it out as soon as you kind of go along really with that. Okay, so how our process works and what you need to be aware of. Okay, so you register on UCAS and follow the handout, preferably, as I said, from probably Friday morning. Okay, now we are dealing with hundreds and hundreds of UCAS forms here. Okay, now we normally deal between 500 and 600 forms. Now, I know this is quite an annoying phrase that people use quite a lot. I find myself saying it, but like in normal times, we'll obviously be seeing you quite a lot here face to face, and obviously that enables us to give you lots of help and support. And from my experience of students here, in the many years I've worked in the college, sometimes students need lots of help and support with the UCAS form, and there's some students who can kind of just get on with it and are fine with doing things themselves and might have the odd few questions or can get straight through to the final process. It would really help just in terms of minimizing the mistakes you have on your application to book a careers appointment. Okay, you'll make that by going on to the link here, then what will happen is myself and Janet, who is the other careers advisor here, we will you will start a preference on when you'd like some help and support, and we'll give you an appointment time, and that appointment will take place through Microsoft Teams. So that can either be through a video call or a telephone call, and that will really help speed up the process. And really what I found with students that I've had to work with, like in March at home, is that emails can be quite time consuming with students. Okay, having a quick 5-10 minute chat, or even a longer 20-minute, half an hour conversation, can really help you discuss parts of your application, and especially the sort of university choices, which is really the key part of your application, and mirroring that with your predicted grade, which we'll come on to in a minute. Okay. Lorraine has mentioned already, I'm going to show you this in a minute, with a thing called you have to complete your information for my tutor reference. That again is in the same part of Moodle. It's under student support, sixth form HE in the UCAS box. But it's really important because it feeds important information that your tutor will write on the UCAS reference, and we then receive that reference and oversee it. Okay, that can often be a problem why we can't approve a UCAS form, because the student hasn't done that. So top tip from today, just work on that tutor reference, get it done, send it to your tutor and to us here in Careers. Okay, so once you get to that point, you'll make an appointment with your tutor to check through your application. Okay, so you'll go through it there and they'll check through it. You click pay and send on the form and you pay the £26 fee, and then you must book a final online approval appointment with Careers. And again, this will take place with Janet or I. And like I said, if we've had a bit of contact with you before in terms of a meeting or a quick discussion, it often minimises the mistakes that might be there in your UCAS form, or often if you've kind of chosen two ambitious choices, it minimises the thing of your form having to go back and forth and back and forth. So that's why I would say make an appointment before you get to this UCAS approval part. Okay. And once Janet and I are happy with your application, so really this is, you've included all your information correctly, there aren't any common errors, your statement makes sense, or your tutor would have checked your statement anyway, and really that your choices, I suppose, make sense in terms of your predictions. We will then approve your form. Your tutor sends us your UCAS reference, and then it's sent off. And I'll give you some information at the end of this talk on some of our deadlines coming up. And once your application form is sent off, you can then access UCAS Track. That will give information about offers from universities. Some universities, of course, have interviews only for really vocational things, and some of them, the majority of them, will hopefully give you an offer, and you'll check that there on Track. So if you did your form quite early, I suppose, so between October and March, you'll hear some of your decisions. Students that apply really early, sometimes you can have heard back from all of your choices this side of Christmas, which is really, really good to help you planning. Many universities then often provide applicant days. This is when you get another chance to view the university. Obviously, we're going to have to see what's happening with all the COVID stuff and how much contact there'll be at universities. I suppose some universities may offer you an online event, virtual kind of tour and stuff. You apply for student finance around early February. You do that actually independently and not through the college. We'll send you all the information for that nearer the time, and then you make your final firm and insurance choices at the earliest around March, but really most of you will have a deadline around early May. And your firm and insurance is your number 1 and your number 2 choice. Okay, and when you include your 5 choices, you're never including a ranking of those on your application. They actually go in a immediate alphabetical default. And each university doesn't see where else you've applied to actually. So you might have your own ranking when you apply, but only later on in the process are you making a kind of 1 and 2 choice. Okay, and obviously there can be further advice and guidance for you later on in the process if that's the case, if you need help then. Okay. So some common mistakes that we found. I had this with a student this morning, a student who's applying to Oxford. She may be on the call today, but you must register with our buzzwords. So if you've already gone ahead and made a UCAS form, you must let us know. There's a way you can do it through the options button to link with us, because if you're not linked to our centre, then we can't obviously manage your application. So as I said, wait until Friday to register with the buzzword. Some common parts which there are errors, always put the fee code as 02. That's on the beginning part of the UCAS form. When you get to the education section, you must put as City and Islington sixth form college, not applied science or anything like that. It must be the sixth form college, and you add your A-level grades as pending. So if you're doing English language and literature, history and psychology, you put them as pending for August 21, and then we will then add your predicted grade in your reference. Okay. You must put then a separate heading for your GCSEs. So if you attended EGA, you'd put the dates you were there from year 7 to year 11, if that was the case, and add all your GCSEs, probably under the heading of 9 to 1 for most of you now. These are the bits that often need a bit of tidying up on a UCAS form. So again, you know, when we get to that final checking bit of your UCAS form, it can be quite a slow process checking all these bits. So if you do that before, it enables us to give you some real guidance around your choices. As I said, common mistake again is that information from our tutor reference is not completed beforehand. Okay, so get that done first, get it sent to your tutor and sent to us, and we can add it to your student file. And often a common mistake is there's not a good range and balance of 5 university choices. So again, maybe if a student hasn't had any input on their choices, yeah, I'm going to talk to you in a minute about how you can be ambitious with your choices, how you can be aspirational, and that's really something we would encourage here in careers, but there needs to be a balance within your application. So we'll talk to you about that in a minute, but that's really, that bottom part is the real kind of key part of your application. Okay. So I'm going to talk you through now some choices. Now, if any of you were in a closer look talk in year 12 in February, some of these will look quite familiar, but it's really important to reiterate. Okay, so this is a kind of fictitious example. Okay, so psychology is always a popular university choice for students, even if they're doing psychology A level or not. And if this is a fictitious example, you could be someone who, for example, now in year 13 is still undecided about whether you want to stay in London or outside London. So this applicant here could have London choices here of like Brunel, Goldsmiths and Hertfordshire. Hertfordshire more for sort of Greater London really though, really, and Aston in Birmingham and Sussex in the south coast near Brighton. So you can have a spread of choices across the country and still not be making a decision. It's often be a thing maybe if your parents don't want you to move away from home, but you do, but you still need to think about it. That decision won't need to be made until kind of really May 2021. All right. If this was a real person and they had an ABB prediction, like I said, you can apply higher than your predictions. Okay, this is quite a safe person really, so it's fine to apply 1 choice above your predictions, even 2. Probably not A star AA for a choice for this kind of prediction, but certainly AA, B or 3 A's at a push would be fine really. The 112 points for Hertfordshire is around BBC. And if this was a real applicant in this year in year 13 and I was approving their UCAS form, I'd look at that, work out the grades, and I'd be fairly confident this person would probably get 3 to 5 offers to pick from. Okay, and that's the kind of internal rule I set myself for every individual that I see. I'm sure Janet will do something quite similar as well, because if you only got 3 offers out of 5 in the end, at least you're picking 2 from 3. Okay, but this applicant I think would probably get between 3 to 5, hopefully 4 or 5. Okay, so they'd be in a good position come the end part of year 13. Now let's show you some examples of some real year 13 students that have finished their their kind of time here at Candid and now moving on to uni. This is a student I knew really, really well throughout year 12 and year 13. She's going to be on a few kind of Moodle live videos you'll see and stuff. She had an A-star BB prediction, wanted to apply for politics and international relations. And she applied across the country really. She'd visited lots of universities. She was aware that Bristol gave contextual offers, so lower offers for certain reasons, and you'll see a lot of that sometimes on university websites. Kind of look into that in terms of what the eligibility criteria. For Bristol, actually, they're just picking certain colleges, and we are one of those. Okay, so most Candid students would get a lower offer from Bristol, but she made a good balanced choice here between all 5 of her choices, and in the end this applicant actually got 5 offers in the end, and is now moving on to Loughborough this month. Okay, I think she achieved more than the ABB in the end as well, but it was a really kind of measured kind of university application. With this is the sort of student that when they had their final checking here in careers in year 13, I'd met her so many times before, it was just a kind of really simple process. So it was a really organic process of approving her UCAS form. Okay, now said this before in careers, and to lots of them, going to university is not all about the A stars and the A's and the B's. Many of you might be working towards B's and C's, and if that's your level, absolutely great. There are some fantastic universities you can go to at that level. Many of our university applicants from City and Islington do end up at places like Middlesex and Hertfordshire and Westminster, which are kind of your BC sorts of places. So if that's what you've got predicted, okay, there's not a problem at all. You need to work within those parameters. So this student had a BCC prediction 104. She was applying for all sort of marketing management courses. She was a part of Lloyd's Junior Scholars in year 12, so I knew her quite well. And again, she had a mixture of, as you can see here, sort of London and non-London. And in the end, this student came to the realization that where she really wanted to go actually was the choice that was asking for the lower grades, actually, which was Hertfordshire. So that doesn't mean that's a lesser choice in any way. She'd found that that was the best course for her and the best environment. I think this student did achieve around C's and B's in the end and is moving on to Hertfordshire. Okay. Interestingly, her insurance choice, you can see there, is lower than her firm, but it's not always perfect that insurance is lower. That's how it should be in a normal way, but as I said, in the end she got the grades for where she wanted to go to, and you know, she made a really sensible UCAS application. So if that's again the grades and levels you're working towards, you know, make sure you're applying appropriately. Okay, so some top tips for the personal statement. Okay, we have lots of handouts and stuff. I'm sure you'll find this on our Moodle pages here, just to give you some key points to think about here. 5 to 6 paragraphs, I would say, is the way to break it down. Don't try and cram it all in and use every character there. If ever I get a personal statement to read from a student and there's no paragraph break, I find it very hard to sort of read it and annotate it. So try and use as much as those 4,000 characters, but space it correctly. And to sort of visualize what 4,000 characters is, it's about a page of A4, about font 11 or 12. Okay. Obviously different courses will vary in how you approach it, but really, you know, it's not too different to how you would structure a kind of, you know, generic type essay. There needs to be a clear beginning, middle and end. So the beginning is where you state your intention, middle is where you talk about the body of your explanations of why you're choosing that course, of your evidence. That could come from your subject choices, it could come from employment and voluntary experience, and the end is where you come back full circle. Now, unless you're applying to, say, Oxbridge, a good balance, I haven't got this on the slides here, but a good balance is really, it needs to be about 60-40, 60 on academic things, 40% on other things. So that means you can talk about your voluntary work or work experience or employment if it's not related to the course. So just because you have a job in a retail part and you don't think it's relevant, you know, there are skills that you'd get from that, like in terms of being self-motivated, having responsibility, having good time management skills. You can thread things in to show you as being a good student to go into university. Certainly don't just be descriptive, be analytical and reflective and use evidence. So don't just say you've done something, back it up with evidence. And certainly if you're applying for like a vocational course like medicine, nursing, teaching, do reflect on your work experience. For those of you applying for those sorts of courses, the middle part of your statement would really be justifying why you're choosing that kind of, not just a degree, but that kind of career almost in lots of ways. So it's slightly different if you're applying for those sorts of courses. Okay. Be honest, yeah. Don't kind of, you know, make things up on the personal statement. I don't often use language as well, which is, you think, making you sound flashy and stuff. Sometimes I see that with students and they're using words in the wrong context and stuff. So it's sometimes quite obvious when a statement isn't written by an applicant, so it's written by someone else. So it needs to sort of read in the language in the way you would speak, but in a kind of formal way, really. Obviously, redrafting is really, really important. Family members, teachers, there are links on Moodle as well about how universities can help you with this now, and our career staff can offer you help and support. And obviously we're dealing with hundreds and hundreds of applications. First drafts and things really should go to tutors, I would say, but I'm certainly happy to help at a certain extent. But look at the sort of handout information we have in the first place, and there's also Oscar as well, which you can use. I'm sure your tutors have told you about that, which gives you a good way of breaking up your paragraphs. Check the spelling and the grammar, read it out, I would say, you know, and what I would say is don't get too stressed on the personal statement. I see so many students are sort of getting sort of lost in it and thinking it's the be all and end all, and it is important. I'm not saying it isn't, but really the key part of the application is really matching your choices to your predicted grades. So yes, it's important. Yes, universities will read it, but even if they, you know, skim it, make sure it can be skim and be well kind of structured within the paragraphs there. Okay, but don't spend too much time on that and not enough time on thinking about your choices. Really, that's often, I would find, is a common mistake as well from students, like I said earlier. Okay.
So the information for my tutor reference looks like this. Okay, that's just the first bit of it here. You will find that again, like I said, in the Moodle box there under student support, sixth form HE in the UCAS box. Make sure you completed that. Maybe do that first, yeah, and then, as I said, forward to your tutor and to us here in Careers. Again, we cannot check and approve your UCAS form until that is done. And with this year's year 13, sort of pre-lockdown in March, we were sort of getting quite upset students wanting to get their form approved and not realising they had to do this. So, you know, if you forget a lot of the stuff I say today, I mean, obviously this PowerPoint will be live and it will be recorded and available for you to hear at another time. But do work on that, and it will really help your tutor write your reference and really make sure that we're not missing anything, key information that needs to be included on your UCAS reference. Okay. So a couple of the last things here, like we mentioned earlier, we're doing a UCAS parents event tomorrow, which is taking place at between 6 and 7:30. You've all been sent a Teams link for this. If parents or carers haven't got it, make sure they do. It will cover some similar bits of information I've included today, but it's obviously driven to help your family members help you with an application. So really, I would say get them to link into it, register and sort of attend tomorrow, but maybe you sit with them and stuff as well, because there'll be things that I'll mention which obviously you've heard today or aware of already. Okay, and also at that talk tomorrow we're going to have Queen Mary talking as well, and they'll, I suppose, give you a really good overview in terms of applications to university and what you need to think about. My talk will be more, again, a bit on the process as well. Okay. So some key deadlines here for you. If you're making an early application, we know some of you have already registered on UCAS. So this is if you're applying to Oxford, Cambridge, medicine, veterinary or dentistry. I would say please make sure you've made your in fact, if you're applying for that, you can register earlier actually before Friday, because you'd go not into a tutor group, you'd go into Oxford or Cambridge or medicine as a tutor group, but you must have your form done by the end of September for that. Okay. That's because the national UCAS deadline for those courses is the 15th of October. So we have to make sure we have your references and stuff. And one thing you can do, I was talking to an Oxford applicant today, say if you're applying to, I think the applicant was applying for history at Oxford and you're not sure about your other choices, you can add those other choices after the 15th of October through track. That's one part of the UCAS form you can access at a later date. Okay. Now, as we said, we're managing hundreds and hundreds of UCAS applications, so we need to kind of make sure that you're all not trying to submit it at the same time. And we have a kind of, I suppose, sort of first come, first serve policy here. So if you get your UCAS forms approved by us by just before half term, there was the 22nd of October, we'll guarantee to send it to UCAS by the 20th of November. Okay, which means that it will still be a really early application, and if your tutor's on top of doing your reference and stuff, it might be sent even earlier. Okay, so that's a deadline to work to if you're kind of wanting your application sent off. Don't rush to reach that deadline if your form isn't ready, but do definitely work towards that if you want your application to be sent relatively early. Okay, and if you send it like that and you apply sensibly, as I said, there's a good chance by the start of next term in January you'll have heard back from most of your universities. Okay, the vast majority of you will probably work towards that third deadline here, which is the 20th of November, so that's kind of a couple of weeks after half term. If you work towards that deadline, we'll guarantee to send your UCAS form by the 15th of January 2021, which is actually the national UCAS deadline. So again, that's when the majority of people nationally will apply. That's when we'll have lots of people submitting their UCAS form. So, you know, we're allowing ourselves just under 2 months there to get your form sent to UCAS. So again, if you apply later than 20th of November and it's in late November, early December, we can't guarantee it will be sent off before the deadline. UCAS do accept forms after 15th of January. They accept them through till June, actually. Like I said, we've been dealing with late UCAS applications this year, but it doesn't mean that it's advisable. Okay, so that 20th of November date is your sort of deadline to work from, even if you're you know, taking a bit of time with it. But if you feel your form needs a bit more work and you want to work over at half term, that's fine. Early November is fine, but try not to let things creep over past that 20th of November, because it just gives us a backlog of forms to actually check and send off with the references. Okay. So some final sort of things here to think about moving forward. Okay. My number one top tip for students is make sure you're reading the online module course content. Yeah. If you're applying for English at one university, English literature at one, and English literature at another, it won't have the same course content. Okay, so the modules will vary dramatically from place to place, although obviously there'll be common kind of themes of them. When I hear a student saying to me, I'm picking this university because I've been there, or you've been to a virtual open day, I suppose, for you guys, and you've gone through the module content, that's kind of music to my ears. That's telling me that this is an applicant that's thought about it, researched it, and given it some kind of thorough reasons. Because ultimately, you know, our year 13s that have just left who are going to university now, that's what they're going to be doing. They're going to be doing these modules, and actually a lot of them are going to be doing it online as well. So if they don't have the academic interest in the course, it's soon going to start to unravel. Okay. So make sure you are doing that and not just basing it on kind of grade entries or what someone's told you. Okay. I appreciate it could be quite difficult for many of you to visit universities due to all the things with social distancing. Some of you may have had some options to do that. Again, if you haven't, keep looking at university websites in terms of virtual events. Obviously, with the new rules around how many people you can be with, I mean, you could still visit, I suppose, university cities to some extent and places. Whether you can get into the university, you need to have a dialogue with them with that. But if you are looking at studying somewhere outside of London, a different part of the country, do make sure you try and visit it at least by May, is when you've got to make your final decision. You know, you could have the perfect module course content and someone's recommended you a uni, but that doesn't mean you should apply there. Okay, like I said before, you must book an online careers appointment with us. Really, it will help you before you submit your application. Okay, and that will prevent sort of time-consuming things of having to go through common errors of your form. And that could be a conversation that's booked in for half an hour. It could be a quick 10-minute chat. Yeah, but it will really, you know, we've all got so many years of experience of dealing with applicants here, and lots of the questions you get are quite similar every year. So we can really reassure you with that. So don't be afraid to ask questions, raise concerns with us. And do be careful around universities giving you unconditional offers. So unconditional is when the university will say, you know, you're in, or if you pick us as a firm choice, we'll turn the offer from 3Bs into a unconditional, which means you're in. If that was a university you were thinking about beforehand, really, I would say fantastic, great. But do be aware that further down the line, you know, graduate recruiters might be looking at your A-level grades as well. So, you know, it's human nature to take your foot off the gas if a university says you're in, but just be very careful around that and mindful, and probably have an appointment with us, I suppose, here in Careers to chat it through after you've heard back from the universities. Okay. Okay, so that's as much as I kind of wanted to say today, Jo.
Okay, Ben, thank you very much.
Sorry if I ran a bit there. But...
That's fine. Okay, so I've just been keeping an eye on the Q&A. Let me just so I've just been trying to reply and keep up to basically the Q&A. So I've tried to answer as many as possible, but there's a few common queries that are coming through. So some people are asking about the deadlines, about how there's 3 deadlines. The first deadline is really just for those students who are applying for Oxford, Cambridge, medicine, veterinary science. That's because we need your applications completed in good time before the actual deadline of when they need to be at Oxford or Cambridge or for medicine. So if you're applying for other very competitive universities like UCL or King's, or I think someone's asked, you don't have to meet that deadline. Your deadline is the main UCAS deadline, but those other deadlines apply. So we would urge you to complete it at least by the second, the deadline 2. Which is the October, just before October half term. That may seem a huge amount of time between then and when the actual UCAS deadline is in January, but it will not be sent. If you miss the 3rd deadline at the end of November, you will have a late application, which will severely impact on your choices, because we simply cannot process them. We send off about 600 applications, we check each one, and just by you clicking pay send on UCAS, it does not go. So it will not go until you do the whole process of booking to see the careers using the UCAS appointment. So that's why, you know, we do this so far in advance. A few people have asked about UCAS predictions and about, I mean, Ben explained this as well, about how can you apply for universities if your predictions are lower? Then, as Ben said, as long as you've got some of your choices that are in line with your predictions, then it's okay to include a couple that are higher. But you have to want to go to the universities that you've put down. There's no point in putting a university down as one of your choices if you don't ever intend to go there. The other option is if you think you're going to do better, if you do better next summer than your predicted grades, you can go into something called adjustment, where you can kind of upgrade to what you might think is a better university. So do not delay your application holding out for a UCAS prediction change, because they are as they are. They're not going to change. So you need to apply with what they are. Otherwise, you could end up with a late application, which will impact your choices even more. There's a few questions about access schemes and contextual offers. So this is something that's not always that easy to find out, but you will find that a lot of universities do have access schemes. So UCL, in fact, started their own access scheme last year where you can get a contextual offer. So if UCL is somewhere that you would like to go, they are usually very, very high grades, and there's no flexibility on that. If they're asking for an A, they want an A. But if you're eligible for their access scheme, you might be able to get a lower offer. So it's always worth looking at those. You have to be eligible. There's a few queries about personal statements. So some of you I know have been sending them to your tutors. I'm sure they will get back to you. Another option for personal statement feedback, if you look in the Get Ahead news, there's a whole wealth of resources there. In fact, a lot of universities are more than happy for you to send through drafts of your personal statement, and then you can receive feedback. So that's all in Get Ahead news, and obviously you can we can send you more information on that if you want us to email you. So that's personal statement. The other thing you'll find in Get Ahead news, a few people have asked about, is about work experience. Obviously, if you're applying for something like medicine, they're going to expect you to already have that experience on your application. There's not many courses that will actually demand you to have work experience, but you just need to prove your interest in those subject areas. So the more you do, the more you'll have to talk about. It's perfectly possible to do work experience, but it's probably going to involve you making speculative inquiries. Again, in Get Ahead news, we've got a couple of virtual opportunities that you can do that will help your applications. But for some courses, you will have to show that you volunteered or committed over a considerable amount of time. And you could argue that actually there's been no better time to volunteer if you're planning to apply for something like medicine. Absolutely loads of volunteering opportunities over the last few months, sort of helping vulnerable people. So you've got to think what an admissions tutor would think if you haven't done anything. So, but talk to us and we can advise you on that. There's taster courses. Again, look at Get Ahead news. There's a really good taster course this weekend, which is about architecture in space, which sounds quite fun. So if you're interested in something like architecture, that's going on this Saturday. Everything's online. That is the advantage, I think, over the last few of the pandemic, is actually there's a huge wealth of information that's now available online courses, online lectures, lots and lots of things you can do. So anyway, so careers are here. We're limited to how many people we can see in any one day as virtually. We're not offering a drop-in service in the college, so you do have to book a virtual appointment. So please don't leave it until the last minute, because we won't be able to see 600 people in the last week in November. So that's my biggest advice to you. So I don't know if Lorraine or Ben want to add any closing comments. Yeah, I mean, I can't see all the questions. I don't know if you can move that, but there were a couple of questions about tutor groups and timetables. So I'm not sure if people missed the beginning of this presentation, but from Thursday, your tutor group should appear on your timetable. You will need to go to EBS to look at that. You won't be emailed a copy of it. So you'll need to log on to EBS. So that's with your normal passwords you've been using. And you'll be able to see your tutor details and the time and date of your tutor group from this Thursday. Okay, yeah. And Joe, I don't know if you can, I can't scroll down the questions, so it might be because I'm the producer. Okay, I'll just quickly look and see if there's anything else. And someone's asked about if you're planning to apply for 2022. Is it the same? Is the application process the same? If you're thinking of a gap year, you can apply this year and ask for a deferred entry place. So you'll just apply for 2022 entries, so still using this application cycle. Or you could leave it and apply through us as an ex-student next year. So every year we have about 50 or so ex-students that just start a new application. So it's up to you. There's pros and there's definitely, I suppose, more advantages to doing it this year and applying for deferred entry, because you can always change it at a later date. The difficulty we have is when students suddenly decide, which lots and lots of students did this year in August, that they do want to go to university after all because they haven't managed to get a job or an apprenticeship. And then it's a massive scramble to try and get all the information and the reference together. So I would suggest you do it this year. If you're not happy with the choices that you've got, you can withdraw and do a new application. So it's going to cost you £26, but that £26 is probably worth it for the hassle that it would cause for you, not for us. Just quickly see if there's anything else there.
Can I add
yeah,
one point, Jo?
Of course, yeah.
I mean, obviously, if you're here in this meeting, it's because you're keen, isn't it? And you're here and you're still here after all the technical problems we had at the beginning. So, I mean, what we sort of alluded to on those deadlines, November is when it gets so busy here, in terms of all the UCAS stuff. So if you're here and you're serious about your UCAS form, we'll certainly have more time on appointments this side of half term, really. So if you're here today, I would just say make an appointment from the link that was there. Janet or I will get in contact with you later this week, and then that will get everything moving forward, really. That's what I would really say. It sounds obvious, but as I said, it's come November, we're just dealing with so many applicants and people who decided to do it who maybe haven't had this input before. So just to sort of reiterate that point, Jo. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Just another, is it the same process for Art Foundation? I think anyone that's considering an Art Foundation course, I really, really urge you to attend the talk, which is aimed at parents and yourselves as well, which we've been giving you details about, which is next week, I think. So that will go through that, but it's a separate process. You apply direct to the art college, it's not through UCAS. So yeah, that's different, but you could have a UCAS application and an Art Foundation application going through at the same time. Someone's asked here about, can the predicted grades change after the October mocks? The October mocks are too late for you to meet the deadline, so you could hold out. They're not likely, they're very, very unlikely to change, because we need to get you to apply. If you hold out with the idea they might change, you're then going to have a late application, which will mean that some courses are full. So you do need to apply now. Okay. Oh, a few queries about the access schemes. When you're looking at the access schemes, this is just to confuse you. It's Capital City College Group rather than City and Islington College. So that's what we'll come under. Just get in contact and we'll talk to you about that. Someone's asked about UCAS points. Ben, do you want to come in on that? I've got it on my wall somewhere, but what are UCAS points and how do you get them?
Yeah, the majority of these will come through from your A-level predictions, I suppose. They're broken down in AS and A2 as they used to be, but you won't be doing AS levels. I think the UCAS tariff table is on the Moodle links in the higher education UCAS box. But just to give you a quick kind of run through, an A star is worth 56 and an A is worth 48 and B is worth 40, and they're going down in points of 8. The kind of reality is, if a university is asking, some of the academic universities won't use points, so they'll kind of say they want A star A or 3 A's or ABB. Some universities around the 3B level, which is 120 UCAS points, may use the tariff as well. So again, places like kind of in London and the London area, Middlesex, Westminster, these sorts of places, Greenwich, places outside London, Manchester, Met, Brighton might use that. Really, I suppose, if you're a student that's maybe got quite an imbalanced prediction, so say if you've got a prediction something like, I don't know, A star, or let's say ABD or something, you'll never find a course that asks for ABD. So that's where you'd use the points part of it. So maybe you might have a few unis that ask for kind of the letters and maybe one or two that ask for points. That's where, again, this kind of really important discussion can happen in the kind of careers appointment before that final checking part. And don't always think that if a university is asking for points, that means it's a lesser university. That's often a real misconception amongst students, that it's kind of, oh, they must be a bit average because they're only asking for 96 points, which is 3 Cs. Lots of universities have got different agendas of why they're asking for those sorts of points. But yeah, that tariff table is on the it's on our Moodle pages, but you'll find it on the UCAS website. But again, probably book an actual appointment as well if you're talking about those things there.
Okay, thanks, Ben. So just one last point. So some people have asked about Get Ahead News. It will eventually be emailed out to you once we've firmed that up. But go to the careers Moodle pages, and the Get Ahead News has got its own little tab there, and you can access it. This presentation has got the link on that Lorraine is saving to the tutorial Moodle pages. That's right, Lorraine, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's on I've got the Year 13 live event, 15th of September. So the PowerPoint that you've just seen is saved in there, and that's got the link to Get Ahead News.
Brilliant. Okay, so just absolutely anything at all. That's why we might not be here for face-to-face appointments, but we're certainly here to help you Monday to Friday for careers. So do get in contact if you want to talk through your choices, and if you want to watch the apprenticeship tutorial, which is happening at the same time, that it is being recorded. So you can just click on the original calendar invite, and I think it says you can go to the recording of it. So you just click on that. Okay, so that's it from all of us, and hopefully see you all soon virtually.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Speak soon. Bye.